What's up, guys? Welcome back to Wrench and Wrecked. We got bungs in the mail today, so oddly enough, I just wanted to go over that. I have the mini lathe, and I've made plenty of my own spacers and my own things, and normally I would do that just because I enjoy it, but time is not of the essence at this point. When I built this shovelhead chopper, every single one of these little bungs and spacer brackets and all of that, this cross piece, pretty much any fitting, I made the pipes, I'm trying to remember. Pretty much everything on this bike was handmade out of one, stainless, and two, on a crappy Harbor Freight mini lathe. So the bungs for the sissy bar, which is actually broken again. Ooh, did I know that? I have another bracket I need to make for this top one. Most of the reason is that's 1/4-inch stainless rod, and it's been rewelded 3 times instead of remaking it the way I'm supposed to. Whatever, different project. But lower bungs down there, little brackets down here. Everything on this was stainless. This is the motor mount. That's all hand-turned stainless. The headlight bracket, all stainless, all bits that I made from scratch. I like doing that. However, it takes me, especially on this, because there's not that powerful, and I don't trust this true enough to thread. It works in a pinch, axle spacers, cleaning up edges, facing things. Definitely has its place. I don't love it for more detailed type work. In a pinch, I can make it work, but the cost of these, and it sucks. You would think it's cheaper to make it yourself, but the amount of time it would take me to make a counterboard, countersunk one, or to make a bung and then tap it. It's nice because I do use this to drill them, and normally I'll just drill a longer section, but I don't trust doing more than, 1.5 2 inches. Otherwise, it's not that true. I don't have enough confidence in that. So I think the bungs are $2-3 a piece. It just sucks to wait on them. But that's what we're doing now. Off camera, we're running a piece of angle iron on here. It's the easiest way to do it. And we're putting the mount underneath the frame rail, so this will not really be that visible at the end of the day. There's cleaner ways, but we don't have a long enough radius to run a bracket across. And this gap here, I actually want to keep relatively close. It might close up a tiny bit, but we're not going too crazy on that. The bottom, I kind of like where it's at. I could space this out a hair, and it'll hug the, tire down here a little bit more, but I don't think I need to. I'm happy with where it sits, pretty much at rest right now. That's resting on the chain up here, and then it opens up a little bit just per the radius of the fender. Don't want to spend too much time on that because I feel like we did that in the last video, but here is the bracket we're going to be running. It's not the most detailed, fancy, custom one-off piece. It's literally a piece of angle iron measured and drilled and tapped, or not drilled and tapped, but drilled for 5/16 bolts, and we're going to run 5/16 bungs here. I will need to put some washers on here. It's just too long to comfortably run a 1-inch without hitting. So what we're going to do is add some washers, and I am actually going to get this bracket welded to the frame first, and then we're going to worry about the bungs to the fender. I think I'm going to MIG weld the bracket to the frame. These will get TIG welded to the fender. Tentatively right now, that's the plan, but I need a couple washers, so let me stack some washers underneath this, and then we're gonna bolt the bungs to this mount. Not crazy tight, but just tight enough, and then I can figure out placement of where this is gonna go along this bottom frame rail. Off camera, I just spent a little bit of time with the grinder. Again, hit all of this bottom area, so we should have a nice clean surface to weld on. So we'll fire the MIG up and then basically tack all of this up. We're not going to burn anything in final tonight. Oh, we'll see how it goes. But as of right now, I'm hoping to just try and get these tacked and the bungs tacked on here. And then we can take a look at what other bungs they sent me in the kit for how I want to lay out the rear. So let me grab some washers, and then we'll come back when I have this maybe clamped on the frame. Definitely need to keep restocking hardware here every time I go up to the store. I don't have much. So I don't have enough washers, but I do have double nuts and longer 5/16 hardware. Also, 1.25 inches is the shortest I got here, and I really just need 1 incher. But we're gonna thread these on here, just like that. So now we have a fender mount bracket. I hit this with a grinder, cleaned up the mill scale. It's just genuinely cheap excess angle iron. But what we're gonna try and do, and I don't know how well this is gonna show up on camera, unless I put you guys down there maybe. But we need to figure out where these are going to land in regards to the fender placement. This might not work. What did I do wrong here? I had this all mocked up earlier. That's interesting. All right, new plan. Apparently that didn't work. I don't know why. Oh, maybe because I had the fender bolted on loose. Too tight of a fit. My angle iron bracket's not going to work, which means we might just do some drop tabs. Switching it up. I'll be back after I cut some tabs. So I found some thick 1-inch bar stock that I think we're going to use instead. This is, since I'm going to be running these vertical, I do want to use a thicker piece. So we have 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch bar stock. This is probably, might be overkill, but that's okay. So I'm going to go and cut off little strips here, and then we'll round and radius them in the vise. But we're going to weld these this way, and I'll do a pass here and a pass on the other side, but it'll be like roughly 1.5 inches wide, maybe a little less. But running a thicker bar stock, burning that in really nicely should be okay structurally. And then we'll just kind of round them out so they hold some sort of semi-clean shape. So this is all grinder work. I don't think I'm going to go too crazy on filming all of it just because I hate running the grinder and then having to speed it up and time lapse it, but I'll cut off 2 sections, 1 inch, 1.25 inch wide. Yeah, probably, maybe we'll go 1.5 inches, and then I can cut more taper in. So 1.5 inch section cut out of each of these, or 1.25 inch section cut out of each of these. 2 pieces. I'll put a 5/16 hole in the center, and then I'm actually probably most likely going to bolt them together and trim them down in the vise with the flap wheel after. So I'll come back once I get them cut and drilled. All right, nothing too fancy. Hit these with the flap wheel real quick, ground these down. Now, we need to go back to the vise, but they're not perfect. So what I'm gonna do is actually clamp these two together as one piece. And then when I hit these with the flap wheel and clean up all the rough edges, I'm gonna do them together as one piece. If I do it that way, you're kind of shaping 2 pieces to make one, and it tends to make them a little bit more symmetrical. It's kind of a weird little thing, but it's what I do, so that's what we're gonna go with. So let me see what I got in terms of clamps and things. And then maybe I'm gonna center drill 1, and that's gonna be the template for the second one. So we eyeballed that, but it ended up being just a smidge under 1.5 inches. And I don't want to, you should go through and measure all of these, but I don't really care all that much. I want this a little offset here. So I don't want it centered. It's a 1 inch piece, so we're at 5/8 off the edge. So 5/8 there. I'm only worried about the one for now because these are going to stack, clamp together, and this first one is going to serve as the template for the second one, in theory. And I don't know if I have vice grips up here. Damn it. All right, I guess we'll go to the vise. Seems like the safest bet, since we are going to be doing some drilling things. Head over to the vise, drill some holes in this one. and we'll figure out how to clamp the other ones. I literally have 3 high-quality vice grips, and by high quality I mean super bargain clearance at Menards, sitting in the... I don't even know where they are. I'm not even gonna lie. They're brand new in a bag, waiting to be brought up here. And I just keep forgetting. All right. There's a reason I didn't want this completely centered. And I'll kind of go over that once we get it closer. I set it offset for the sake of being able to kick this off the frame rail a little bit farther. I really need to bring over that little drill press vise too for this one. Come in handy. If I had that here, I'd probably be drilling both of these at once. Come on, Harbor Freight crappy drill bit. Hang in there for 2 more brackets. Let me grab my good drills. I brought them here, so why not work smart? I know they're very expensive, and I don't like usually talking about expensive tools, but these tapered step-up bits are fantastic when you tighten your chuck down. I will say my biggest complaint with these Harbor Freight drills, now that I've been using them for a little bit, the drills, I mean, they work fine, but when you're using Makita's or Milwaukee's in the past, the trigger sensitivity on this is a lot more of a pull than I'm used to. And the other ones, I feel like they're a little bit touchier. But there we go. We got 1 bracket. I'm not as worried about fully centered on this because we can shape that, and we're going to be doing a lot of shaping on these. But now let me go over, get the other one queued up. I guess I can just bring you with. Why not? I keep trying to cut these videos down and shorten them up when I'm doing more elaborate back and forth type stuff. I mean, I know it's more realistic. I'm not trying to trim anything, but it gets boring. It's not really the most exciting thing in the world, doing this over and over and over and over and over again. Walking back and forth across the shop a million times. It ends up making for really, really long videos. The spring in that center punch took a crap. I'm kind of bummed. It makes it a little bit more difficult to do all of this. This lower one is a smidge wider. So actually, since we are going to center punch this, we'll go sideways because that should be the same. Just like that. And then, let's see how well we did here. Not that well. Since we're using a stepped bit. Oh my God. How many tries does it take to center up a drill bit? Jesus Christ. This will actually work pretty well for this. Don't advise starting with a 5/16 bit, but I was also just bragging to you how good these drill bits are. Now, I could jam this all the way through. It will go, but I don't need to beat up my tools that much. We already have a little hole there. At least a pilot started. That's all I wanted to do on there, and that at least kept it squared up to the other one. Okay. Now that we got one all the way through, I don't mind using this as a step bit. Realistically, I just don't want to have to keep running back and forth. Woo. 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 Glasses. And I broke my bit anyway. That's unfortunate. Broke my bit and hit myself in the face. But the nice part about spending big money on drill bits like that, warranted. If possible, use a drill press. That was a fun series of events, but use a drill press. It makes cutting through thicker metal like this substantially easier. Anyways, now we have 2 brackets done and drilled. I'll just run the flap wheel across that back one. And look at that. Use the template of the old one to make your new one. Sure beats measuring in my book. But, all right, I'll flap wheel the high edges on both sides of these, just run it real quick, clean that up, and then I am going to nut and bolt these together very tightly, and then we'll figure out a way to kind of start shaping them. So I was going to nut and bolt these, but I don't have any 5/16 washers up here, not enough, so I tried using an ironhead motor mount pin. Instead, I stacked the 2 of them together and just tacked them, 1 quick tack on each side with the MIG. But that will actually help, because now these are pretty fixed. They're connected as one piece. So what I'm gonna do is lay this with that offset that I put in here. I'm gonna put that in upside down and tighten this onto the nut that I just put in there. There we go. Now I'm going to bring the flap disc over here. We're basically going to carve this out on both sides. The other thing I typically would like to do is grab a socket, put a socket on here kind of like that, and then trace this radius to the outer edge. So maybe we'll do that instead. Something like that. That'll at least give me an idea of where I want this bracket to curve. The edges I don't mind as much, but we don't want these sharp corners. And this is going to be, it's upside down from the way it's actually going to mount on the bike. The offset here is towards the bottom. I want more meat up here. So essentially, we're looking for something kind of like that. And we're going to shave that outer corner off. Hopefully you guys can see the spacer there. So I'll run a Sharpie line around those outside edges. It's going to be a little bit wider than that, just because that's what I have for material and how they're cut. But that's what we're going to try and do. So I'll film a little bit and then time lapse the rest of that and come back when they're all done. prettiest way of doing that, but it definitely worked. So now we have two very warm bungs that are equally shaped. Perfect? No. Could I spend a little more time? Yeah. Two equal bungs now. Put some spacers on here. And bolt our bungs in. Now these, the advantage of doing it this way is I can place these instead of round bar. These I can place where I need them. They're even, they will look the same, but you won't be able to see them. Okay, so now we have bungs bolted on to our tabs. Okay. And I can land these where I need them to be. The bung is 3/4 of an inch. Actually, that worked out better than I planned. 3/4 of an inch. We used 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch bar stock, which puts us at, so a 1 inch bolt will work fine. Put a washer in there and we'll be good to go. So here is the frame mount. This is getting welded to the frame. This is getting welded to the fender, but we will mount this up on here as one piece, and then I get to square the fender up. So we got the welder on now. I think we should be able to tack this up. We'll have two little bits, then we can shorten up and move the hardware. But I genuinely think that's gonna work just fine. Just have to level this out where we want them on the frame. But on this flat fender design, we actually have a pretty flat spot, so I definitely want to keep it a little tucked in, right about there, where it's kind of flush with the weld for the frame mount. Just like that. And we'll do that on both sides. So actually, let me throw the ground on here and we'll just throw a tack on here. Figure out what we want to do. So I got one side tacked in. Get to the other side. I should be able to do this up here, I think. I know the fender's gonna move a little bit when we go to do the final weld. And I also know I only have one tack in there, which is okay. So, we have the chain in the fender as a spacer, so as long as I keep that gap pretty close, we should be in good shape. Now we will grab a hammer and just kind of square these up while I get one more tack in. Tack. Ow. All right, much happier with that one. Much happier with that one. So, get one more tack in on this. Like that. All right, definitely happier with that one. I know it's hard for you guys to see. Come around to the other side, see if I can get one more tack in here. Yeah. Those are mounted. Now, I'm happy about the bungs. I'm happy with the placement there. Fender feels good. So, we got the tab, two tacks on each side. Obviously, the back part of the fender is still floating, so we can square this up, but with that sitting there, we're about one finger on each side of this, trued up to the wheel. So that should be fine. And here's our mount down here. So we will separate those. I'm going to turn the heat up, pull the fender off, and then we'll burn that in. Those mounts I don't mind burning in tonight because those are fixed, those aren't going anywhere. And then maybe tack up the fender bungs tonight, maybe not. I don't know what time it is. But we'll get rid of the one bolt on the fender here. And then I can at least burn these two tabs in. If I look down this side, they're pretty square on both sides, so that's good. Fender out of my way. Turn the welder up since we are doing some hot work, and then burn this thing in. I don't know how much you guys are going to be able to see or not see, but we're time-lapsing this because I want to listen to music. Take our fender, get this laid out. I decided I am not gonna be tacking up the fender like I wanted to tonight just because it's getting a little late for a work night after all. And I still got some choring to do at home. We'll get this bolted back in, get this to land where it needs to, and see how these look on the tabs. Pretty okay. They're still looking pretty good there. There's a lot of wiggle room on this fender too, so on the lower mount. A lot of people will start with these ones first, but how hot are you? Now we're at that weird, tedious spot of trying to line all of this up, so let's try and stabilize the fender a bit. We had a nice one finger gap on each of these before. We're at a one finger gap on the back now. And our bungs look pretty good. Might take a little bit of finessing and moving around, but then we'll save the bungs onto the fender for tomorrow, which I'm really excited about because welding fresh metal bungs on a fresh, clean fender that hasn't been welded on a million times over the years with a TIG should be much cleaner. So those we are going to tack in. These lower mounts, again, oil tank going here, seats going here, structure over anything else. Happy with the way those are landing. They're too hot to do anything right now, but we'll have the two mounts down there, so now we'll have mount at the bottom, mount in the middle, and then the last bit's just going to be figuring out the sissy bar, which honestly think I'm gonna start there. We'll start with these two, then go to the sissy bar mounts, because even if that's bolted in and welded, there's still always gonna be a little bit of flex left and right here. You don't wanna have it bent over and jammed in, putting a torque load on it constantly, but that should work. Fender part 2. I didn't think that this was gonna turn into a 3-parter, but running out of time. So we'll see you tomorrow, and hopefully get this thing wrapped. Well, if not tomorrow, actually probably won't happen tomorrow. I don't know when we're getting back to this. This might be the end of the video because I'm running out of time to spend up here, or if I can get around to getting up here, sneaking up here for a couple hours tomorrow, maybe we can get at least those inner bungs done, and then we'll do a final sissy bar mount bung video. Who knows? Or this is it, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.